We're at the Udemy page just kind of as a sample for you to kind of look at here. So just give it a second. It'll come up and you should be able to see it in your screen. And what I want to do tonight really is overview of all of the different parts of the program as far as the beginning part of the program and kind of what you're going to need to do to get started. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, open up the screen for you so you can take a peek at it. And we're going to get on to that section, which would basically be your outline of the actual course. So let me get it open for you here really quick again. There we go. And sorry about that. Looks like it's a little lag on it for you. So let me just pause and reset. Make sure we get you up there. Let's see. All right. Okay. So we'll get started on that in just a moment. But what I wanted to do was just let you guys know kind of how I got started here. The big thing that came to me just the other day when I was in Mexico and speaking to someone was they asked me, how did you get started as a life coach? And, when I thought about it, I had to go back all the way to when I was 14. I was 14 years old and I was in high school, and a friend of mine sent a friend of hers to come and see me and talk to me about some really serious stuff that was going on in her life. And while I was touched, obviously, that she felt like she could confide in me, but I was really humbled and honored to be able to help her through a really difficult time in her life. Basically, the story goes that she found out through an argument with her brother that she was adopted. And her whole life, she believed that she was part of the family, a birth child. So it was really distressing to her. And she decided that she really wanted to figure out how she could broach her parents on the subject because he had told her and she hadn't told them. So, we spent a lot of time, lunch times really, going back and forth about how some of the things she could say and how she was feeling and how she could let them know that. And really, that's when it all started for me. It kind of clicked that not only did I enjoy helping people with their problems, but I seemed to be really good at it. She was really excited to have a way to talk to them. They did talk about it, and she was really happy to share her feelings, which I thought was really important. So that's really like how I became a life coach. That was the first step for me. But as time progressed and I decided, well, if I'm good at helping people, then I should look at psychiatry or psychology because that's kind of like, what are you going to be when you grow up was the next question. And so I kind of headed off in college up towards a psychology degree. And it was my first psychology class when I realized this really doesn't make sense to me. And the thing that I was really challenged with was it just didn't feel like it was right that you had to work so hard and really maybe never get results. I mean, I was just hearing about like years of people being in therapy and just, coming all of these different layers of trying to help them basically get to resolution about a problem. And it just didn't, for some reason, set inside of me as true and valid. And I felt like there had to be a better way. And that's when I found hypnotherapy and I got really interested and excited about the prospects of being able to really help people change their minds and therefore change their lives. And we're going to talk a little bit today, teeny tiny bit, about a great book. Let's see here if I can hold it up for you guys to see. Here it is, The Holographic Universe. Awesome book, highly recommended, because it talks about our minds and how when we have a thought and we believe a thought, we create an experience that matches that thought. And it's a little about quantum physics, and you don't really have to know any of that, but I highly recommend the book because the gentleman that wrote it kind of breaks it down in kind of a more digestible way. So anyway, so when I found out about this kind of theory of changing our minds to change our lives, I really was excited and I was able to help a lot of people. And then I still felt like there was a piece missing. And the piece that I thought was really missing was having an actual plan, like something physical to really work through the process so that people can really see their own results, be a part of it, not just coming to me to solve or fix them, but to feel as if they were actually doing it for themselves. Because I think that that's the biggest key. When we can help people do for themselves, then they can share that knowledge, they can continue to bring it forward in their lives. So that was the key. So that's where kind of the offshoot of becoming not only a life coach, but a hypnotherapist came in play. And so that's when I created this program and took kind of pieces from everything that was working with my clients and pieces of things that I found in my own research with different people like Terry Cole Whitaker and Anthony, aka Tony Robbins. When I listened to them and I saw the things and techniques that they were using, I was really excited about putting this stuff together in a way that would make it, very economical, I guess is the best way, as far as time and energy, and also really clean in the way that it was only working on the specifics that you were trying to target. So you weren't spending a lot of time drudging up history, but you were staying really engaged. So that's how I became a life coach. That's how the Power Plan kind of was born, and why I continue to do this work, because I see so many great results for people. And what I really want tonight is really about how can we help you take this program and use it as best as possible for you. And that's going to be different for everybody. And I think I really want people to understand that. Like, I just recently sent out an email to everybody, and it was talking about how my husband and I just came back from Mexico. And one of the things that maybe not a lot of people understand or know about me, unless they've read the book, of course, is that, there was a time in my life when I was literally homeless, had no money, had no place to live, was on the streets. And at that time, if you told me that I was going to be traveling to Europe and Mexico with the man I loved, have a child, all of these things that are actually a part of my life right now, I would have told you were crazy, and I would not have been able to understand or comprehend it. And I tell you that because I want you to understand that wherever you are right now, and whatever your dreams or goals or, however they look to you, that they are possible, and that it's okay if they're different than mine. It's okay if they're different than anybody else who's on the group that might share a story or, a success story. I want everyone to feel like their success is their own, and it's always different, but that it should be authentic to who you are. So keep that in mind. And that kind of leads us to the next section of our course. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we can hop over there now and get this set up for you. We're going to go and look at the Udemy course. And I'm going to get in there for a second. And one of the things about the Udemy course that is important to note, and I'm going to go ahead and turn down my picture for you guys right now so you don't have to look at me anymore. And pause this so it's not actually playing, because we don't want to play it. We just want to go to the dashboard. So let's go to the dashboard. And if you're on your own computer, obviously, probably if you're on this call right now, you are on your own computer. You can log into your own dashboard too if it's a little easier for you to kind of look at what we're looking at tandemly. But what we want to do is to be able to walk through the sections of the program. So we don't really need to talk about section 1. That's really just some of the testimonials for the website. But what we're going to look at right now is section 2 and section 3 tonight really quickly and go over them. So let's get in there for a second and see why this is not opening. I apologize. Show my screen. Okay. Well, it doesn't look like it wants to show my screen. So hopefully you guys can go ahead and log into Udemy. So I'll give you guys a second to do that. And then we'll get started again here. So I'm going to actually close some of these other ones right now because we don't need them open. That might help us. Let's see. All right. Okay. No. Okay. Well, we'll walk through this process because I've got the notes here anyway. So what I want to let you guys know really right now about the actual lectures themselves is that each lecture is kind of broken down into the segments of the lecture that you would be using kind of in order. So hopefully at this point, if you've logged in, you're kind of new to the program, which obviously if you're on this call, you are, then section 2 is going to be kind of, again, a little bit about my history, how the plan actually started, an overview of the plan itself. So all of that, hopefully, if you got your welcome letter, you understand that you can go through those pieces first. So you want to do all of that before you kind of jump in and get started on the actual section 3 videos. So do section 2. Hopefully it wouldn't take you that long. The videos themselves aren't that long, so you should be able to do that kind of in one night. Just sit down and go through those videos, kind of feel them out and make sure that you don't have any questions. If you have any questions on any of these sections or lectures, there's 2 ways that you can let me know. First, you can, of course, go up and message me, and that's great too. Or if you have a question about a specific lecture, you can always open a discussion, and that's perfectly fine. I want people to understand that, because I think a lot of times people feel reticent to do that. So just note, you can always go ahead and click on a lecture, and if you have some questions about that specific lecture, just click on the little discussion, which is like the little bubbles, the little talk bubbles in the corner, and then type in your question. And if once you've done that, it will send me a notice. And if it's something that you need me to follow up on, or you just like, oh, this is an interesting thought, that's fine too. You can, expound on something that you see there, or you can send me an actual question through that discussion system as well. And either way, I will go ahead and respond in kind. So I will either respond with a message, or I will respond on the discussion topic link. If it is something that I think that other people can benefit from seeing or hearing the answer, then I may take your message off of the message machine, or off of the message system, and then upload it to the discussions for that topic. I think it's important for people to understand that we want to continue to help each other out as well. So don't take that, as any kind of offense. I really just want to help people. If somebody else is having the same or similar issues or problems or questions, let's make sure it's clear to everybody. So again, that first section, section 2, is really all about the actual nuts and bolts of the program itself. So hopefully with that, you will get an overview of the program itself, how it works, in other words, how many the steps themselves work. And with that, we're talking about doing your daily visualizations, writing your goal list, writing your thank you list or your gratitude journal. And it should then give you a framework for the program itself. Now, one of the things I want to make sure we stop for a moment and talk really a little bit more in depth about is the goal list. And that's in section 3. So that's the next section we're going to talk about really quickly. Section 3, actually, before we go there, I'm going to back up for a second. In lecture 12, there are some forms that you're going to want to print and have available to you as you get started. So in lecture 12, you'll see a holistic calibration chart, a 90-day success tracker, which comes in a PDF and an Excel format. So you can use either of those, whichever works better for you. And then you can also, if you choose, there's a link to order a hard copy of the book. And the beauty of having the book for most people is that they have something that they can physically write in, and therefore they have it all in one place. So there's a thank you list in there. There's a weekly goal list. There's a copy of the tracker that you can print out and use as well. So it's just a nice way to have that all in one piece. So it's up to you if you want to do that. You can, of course, just go ahead and print off the individual sheets as you go along too. The other thing about the goal list itself is in lecture 14, you will see the resources, right, under the resource button. So when you open the lecture, you'll see at the top of the page a little blue button that says resources. You click on it, and that's where all of the different downloadable forms are. And one of those is the master goal list. And that's different from the weekly goal list. So that's something to keep in mind. So the master goal list, I want you to think of as your ultimate dream list of every possible thing that you could ever imagine having or wanting in your life, kind of as you stand right now. And then the weekly goal list, we're going to take 5 to 7 of those items, and we're going to put those on your weekly goal list. And that's going to kind of start your process, start your program. Your power plan will be based on those first 5 to 7 items. And then you'll continue to take from your master list and backfill, of course, as you reach your goals into that list. So it's kind of like think of it as like a master funnel of everything you can think of, going down into a smaller list of items that you're actively working on during this 13 weeks. So, with that said, the weekly lecture format is at the very bottom of the entire sections, and it's under lecture 47. So, lecture 47 really is just the bonus materials, and I'll continue to add things there as they're appropriate. And as this program grows, you can always go back in there, because you are a lifetime member now. You can always go back in there and look for new things to supplement what you're doing. There'll be new audios, new videos, new self-hypnosis audios are kind of peppered throughout here, but I will also add them in the future into the bonus section. So always look at the bonus section when you come in. There might be some new stuff in there. I try to make sure I put a general discussion topic up for any new items that are added. So to me, the best way to use that system as far as the Udemy platform goes is once you come in to work on your program, you can look at the messages, see if you've got any messages or replies to your messages, then look at the discussions for this particular course, which will be general discussions. And most of mine are general unless I'm answering a specific question for someone. And then you can go through your course and look for any resources at the bottom under the bonus section. So if you do those things first, it should answer most of your questions kind of right off the bat. And if you have anything after that fact, feel free to reach out. So when we talk about goals and goal list, one of the biggest things that I think is a challenge for almost every group of clients I've ever worked with, whether that's one-on-one or in private groups, online groups, face-to-face, etc., is that first master goal list. It's a little daunting sometimes to think of what's possible, especially if, as I mentioned, if you're struggling and you're really feeling as if there should be something more in your life, but you're really struggling to get by day to day, for example, and it just feels kind of overwhelming. So what I want to encourage you to understand is that if I could do this, and I have, then anyone can. If one person can create a process and follow it through to success, then anyone else can follow that process. And that's the whole point of the Power Plan, is to give you a process that you too can follow and that will give you results. So with that in mind, I highly encourage you to recognize that there is no failure, right? So when you look back on your experiences, that really what was happening was the world was just giving you feedback. You had a situation, you had a setback perhaps. It wasn't so much that you're a failure, it's simply saying that that's not the way to do this for you. This is not the way for you to run and manage and enjoy your life. So how can you do it? How better can it be? What kinds of things do you want to experience? What kind of activities do you want to be doing with your day-to-day life as well as your future life? And when you start to kind of get your mind wrapped around the idea that any of that is possible, then you can start to create a master list that really gets you excited. And I will tell you that the level of excitement that you have for that goal list, that master list, really will pull you forward. It's what kind of creates an inner momentum within you to move forward through the step-by-step process of getting to the end results. So really make sure that whatever you do, dream big, then bigger, and even bigger, and never find yourself shrinking back down, right? That's the kicker. Like if you say in your mind, I want to go out and learn how to fly, and you don't even know how to drive a car, for example, or you don't have enough money to buy groceries next week, and those thoughts start to kind of come in like the little devil on your shoulder and remind you of your limitations, remind you of where you are, then I want you to say out loud, if you have to, right now and from this point forward, I dream big or I dream bigger. There's no harm, there's no foul in creating a master list that is so outrageous, so unbelievably amazing. It's a piece of paper, for one thing, right? And the other reason is that what if, just what if, even one of those amazing dreams came true? How different would your life be? How much happier would you be? How much more enjoyable would you be to be around if you felt good in your own skin for a change? It's worth it to push beyond those mental limitations. And the steps and the videos are going to walk you through how you get through those limitations. So trust that once you start the program, we are going to take you step by step and, baby step by baby step through the process of opening your mind, of letting go of limitations, of actively taking part in creating a life that you dream of every day. So that when you wake up in the morning, it's not, oh no, or why me, but how lucky you are that you wake up with a feeling of joy and excitement and what next? What can I do now? Where do I get to go next? Who do I get to be today? And that enjoyment, that excitement, that energy really is magnetizing. And you start to create a new environment for yourself. You start to connect with new people because people start to become engaged and mesmerized even by your energy. So that's the idea of this goal list. And I know it sounds kind of at first blanch to most people like a little too much, perhaps even a little outrageous. But that's fine for 1 week, right? Just for this week. Be outrageous. Go as far as you can with whatever it is you're going to be doing in your life. Let that just lead you out into some crazy, wild abandonment of joy and bliss and happiness, whatever that looks like for you. And that kind of leads me to the next point of what is possible. And, that's kind of the thing that, right? That's the question people have. Like, is that possible? Like, is it possible for me when I'm living on the streets to live in a beautiful home and have a lot of money and have a nice car? Is it possible? Well, yes, it absolutely is. But how can you understand that? How can you change your brain? How can you change that subconscious part of your mind to accept and believe that it is possible? Well, that's where I'm going to talk for just a minute about a couple of quotes I found in this book that I thought that were fascinating. The book itself is fascinating. But Niels Bohr, who was a Nobel Prize winning pioneer in quantum physics, he discovered that once subatomic particles, such as electrons or photons, are in contact, they remain forever influenced by each other instantaneously and for no apparent reason over any time or any distance. And what I like about that idea is that that's all we are, right? We're all made up of this energy, these subatomic particles. That's all we are. That's all the universe really is when you get down to like the microscopic level or the quantum level, if you will. So if you have something inside of you that's calling out to be expressed, that's calling you to find it and build it, if you will, then there's a reason. I believe there's a reason. And I believe that thing, whatever it is also out there wanting to be drawn to you. So let yourself hold that thought that what is coming out in your mind, what you're dreaming about, what you keep continually coming back to, wanting and wishing for, is very much possible out there because it's possible in your own mind. And your mind is controlling whatever you're experiencing, which is another key component, right? Whatever you're experiencing, it's based on your habitual thoughts. And oftentimes we take for granted, or I should say, we don't acknowledge that we are part of this creative process, that what we believe about the world is what we see about the world. And then when we can start to really embrace that idea, then that's when we can really institute change within ourselves. And we can really make huge shifts in our lives. So it takes some time. And the next question, of course, how much time? It depends. Depends on the person, depends on your kind of preconceived notions. It depends on your past experiences, how easily or how challenging shifting that idea, that process is. I have one client named David who was awesome. And literally, I think we got to week 11. I'm not even kidding. From like the 13-week program, one-on-one, week 11, he showed up, first of all, which was great. Every single time, he did everything that I asked him. He did all of the different techniques. And, he really tried very hard, but he was holding back, in his belief that these things would come about. And then in week 11, in fact, if you look at the website, you'll see his testimony. But I think it was like week 11, he finally, I don't know, the light bulb clicked. He finally let go. He finally released. We got a place where he could be comfortable enough to accept that it was even possible that these things that he was trying to achieve could actually come true. And instantly, it was like the floodgates opened. One of his big things was to find someone. He was lonely. He'd be divorcee, and he did. And oddly enough, one of the other things he wanted to do was travel. And the person he found was through someone else, and she lived in China. And within the last few weeks of our time together, he not only met her, and talked to her, excuse me, I should say, he not only talked to her online, like video chat and Skype and things like that, but he actually traveled to China. Something he didn't travel much at all. So here he was, rarely traveling to China within weeks and having an amazing experience and talking about marrying this person by the time we were done with our time together. He had sent me a message back after he had gotten back from China and was really excited and sent the testimonial that you'll see on the site. But I think the thing that I want to share about that is it still happened for him. And I know that sometimes people will start to feel like maybe at week 3 or 4, it's quote unquote not working. And I just encourage you to give yourself the 13 weeks, give yourself to the process, follow the steps. I mean, that's the one thing that David did right. He continued to follow the steps. I think around week 6, we found out he wasn't doing his thank you list. So I did catch him on that in a way and said, let's get back to that. Start to be thankful for what you have. Start to really focus on that level of gratitude that you need to really draw more positive stuff into your life. And he did that. So, take each of these steps in the program and really apply them in your life. Really take the time. And again, we're talking probably 30 minutes of your day at the most to really follow the program. It's not going to take a lot of your time. I designed it that way on purpose because I don't want that to be an excuse for not achieving what your goals are. So, and last in this section here, I think it's important to talk about when we're talking about gratitude is affirmation. Now, the difference between the affirmations I'm talking about and some that you might have seen before is that I really try to create affirmations based on the individual, which means I want your affirmations to be on purpose for you and not just generic. And there is a technique in here, and you'll see Lecture 18. Lecture 18 goes over how to create a power affirmation. And the difference between a regular affirmation and power affirmation is, let's see, if I were to say, life is good, that's an affirmation. And anyone can use that affirmation, and to varying degrees of success, right? Someone could use that affirmation and it makes their whole day turn around like that, like in an instant. Other people can repeat it, and it makes them feel good for a little while, or maybe while they're saying it, but it doesn't really stick per se. Now, if I take that same idea of feeling good about life and I turn it not just to life in general, but to my own life, right? Even by just putting the word my life is good, I've automatically connected with my own subconscious mind. Taking that one step further, if there is something specific about your life that you know in your heart is good, that you know that when you think about that person or that place or something about your life, you are proud and happy and energized, and you add that into the affirmation, then your affirmation becomes not only energized, but self-perpetuating. right? Because as soon as you think about it, you become energized. And as soon as you say it, you become energized. And so it continues to feed itself. So that's why a power affirmation can be different. And so we're using that same example. Okay, so our first example was life is good. Then my life is good. But if I say, my life is good because my son loves me every day. I don't know if you're out there. I don't know if you have kids. But if you do, and you have a good connection with your child, then you can feel the energy of that changing. You can understand how creating an affirmation based on something personal shifts it into basically a higher gear. And the reason we use affirmations in this program is to change negative thoughts into positive thoughts. Again, why? Because all of these things we're talking about are based on what we think about our lives and how we are training ourselves now in the next 13 weeks to think in a way that favors our development and our goals and our life as a whole into the better, right? So changing our lives for good. So really quickly here, I think I have one more quote I wanted to share from this book, if I can find it really quickly without taking too much time. I just moved away from it. I apologize for that. Okay, here it is. So in 1987, Dr. David Peat, who is a physicist in Queen's University in Canada, he asserted that synchronicities, right? So things that kind of happen, the coincidences of life, if you will, are actually flaws in the fabric of reality. They reveal that our thought processes are much more intimately connected to the physical world than has been hitherto suspected. So he wrote a book called Synchronicities, The Bridge Between Matter and Mind. And I like to think about that a lot because, if you ever had a time when you had like maybe a deja vu, and I tell my clients to be aware of those and then start to look at your day and what were you thinking about and where kind of have you changed a direction all of a sudden. I think of those moments, those synchronicities, deja vus, as little signposts for us. If we're paying attention, they can really help us to steer towards our ultimate good. So if you are starting this program kind of from scratch, if you've never done anything quote unquote like this before, be kind to yourself. Give yourself permission to just try it. Even if you think you'll feel silly or you'll look weird, having a little post-it note on your desk or something like that, just be kind enough for you for the next 13 weeks to just try it. And, I know one of the things that David had mentioned post his program with me was he suddenly realized that, at the end of it all, he wished he had gotten engaged sooner. But I explained to him, you got engaged when you were ready. Like all of that stuff was still happening in the background. All of the stuff was still churning. The energy was still moving. Things were still falling into place, if you will. And he needed to find himself at that right crossroad to make that shift, to make the leap of faith and take on those things that were kind of building up in him. And that brings me back to kind of my 2x4 moment. And you might, if you haven't already, experience one of those. And I like to share it because, I think it goes to the point of, what if I fall down? What if it doesn't work? What if I need to change directions? And to that, I would just share this story of my first marriage and the end of that marriage, and the fact that it was part of when I became homeless. It was part of when I let everything go, and it was all for the right reason. And even though during the process it was very painful, it was, scary, I was angry and frustrated and felt in a way like a failure and hopeless. There was something inside of me that knew better. And I chose to focus on that. I chose to focus on the thing inside of me that said, this is the right thing to do. to be done with this place in your life, to step away from this and move towards what you want to have is the way to go. And I am thankful now every day that I made that decision, as tough as it all was. It made me more empathic. It made me more compassionate to those who are homeless and suffering and struggling. It made me more open and loving, and gave me the understanding of people that are struggling financially and people that are extremely wealthy, and that there's a very small line between the two. It doesn't take much. And yet, uh, if we turn our focus, if we turn our light and our intention in the right direction, and we keep it there, then we can really make giant shifts and leaps in our lives. But again, I repeat, be gentle. Now, some of you may have already I know oftentimes we have clients that show up on this call that have either run the program already or maybe skimmed through it and now are coming back to kind of take it on full bore. So that's great. So for all of you, I would say make sure that this time around you ask yourself, what part of the program didn't I fully engage in? What part of it did I maybe hold back on? And I would encourage you then to take stock of that and add that piece in, really focus maybe extra attention, if you will, on getting that part handled. And if you are one of those people, reach out to me, let me know, and I'll be happy to kind of help guide you through if there were some struggles in the past with the program, or if there's actually something I can do to fix the layout to make it easier to work with, because I'm here to help you guys, absolutely. And lastly, there are people that have done similar things before. So for anybody out there that's done, work with Esther Hicks or Anthony Robbins or, Terry Cole Whitaker, or anybody else who has kind of a similar platform involving, mastering the law of attraction, the secret, those kinds of things, I encourage you to stay open, really. That's all I'm asking of you. And use your personal knowledge, keep that as your base, if you will, but to maybe see what in here can be added to it to bring more depth and maybe faster, easier results. I'm all about results. That's the end game for me, for everyone to be successful in their lives. So if I can be of service in that way to help you figure some of these steps out, whether that's, really coming down to like the nitty gritty of having to use this new platform, the Udemy platform, definitely let me know or contact Udemy. They're very nice. Their service guys are great, and gals. And lastly, I just want to go quickly to talk about something that we've added to this program that wasn't in previous programs. So I want everybody to know about this, and I want to be kind of upfront with it. So at the bottom of the screen, in the resources section, you're going to see something called Lecture 46, How to Qualify for Weekly One-on-One Coaching. So what is that? What does that mean? Well, several months ago, I added it as an upgrade to the program. And so for those of you who are just joining us, you may not have seen that initial announcement. So I want to make sure it's clear that in each week, you have the option to join these calls and submit a live coaching submission form. The live coaching submission form gives me an idea of where you are, what you're working on. It also helps us as we're talking on weekly live calls. If there's something that comes up, it gives you an opportunity to write a question there too, so I can kind of pre-stage those questions for people and make sure we get as many of those in as possible. The two factors for qualifying to get free one-on-one coaching are completing those weekly submission forms, which are basically tied to every single week's lecture. So for example, lecture 14 is week 1, and that is the live coaching call submission form for lecture 13, week 1 topic, which is deserving success. So each week you'll see the topic, and then right below it, you'll see this form, this coaching submission form. So take advantage of that. And once you do, then you are kind of pre-qualified, and then you register for the weekly calls. And right now we have 4 a month, so we've kind of broken them down into more hopefully manageable chunks for everybody. And then once you've registered for that, so whether you attend it live or you've registered and then follow up by watching the replay later, you're going to qualify for having the one of the 20 spots that I'm going to save for people to do one-on-one, a quick one-on-one 30-minute coaching call. So we'll talk specifically, you and I, about what you're doing with your program and maybe help you give you some tweaks with that, or give you encouragement, or maybe find some tools that might be good resources for you as you're trying to kind of create your plan, etc. So I want to make sure everybody has that information. So that's why I wanted to include that in tonight's call. I think it's an important extra tool, and it's a bonus. So, I mean, it's certainly not anything that you have to do, but I would encourage those of you who are really eager to really make the best of this program to take advantage of it if you want to. Additionally, I should add that I'm getting ready, as I've been mentioning in the past on some of these calls, to start a new program to actually create power plan practitioners, life coaches, through this Udemy platform. And part of that will be the prerequisite of completing this entire course. And part of completing the entire course will be submitting all of your coaching submission forms and showing up to all of the calls during your 13-week process. So just as a caveat, if your intention for this program is to really take it on and use it, and then you have any interest at all in the future of wanting to share it with other people and do it as your as your own professional, then I encourage you to make sure you get all those steps in too. So I think for tonight, I've got everything that I wanted to cover. I'm just double checking my notes really quick to make sure we haven't missed anything. The one last thing I wanted to say is to recognize that within this section here, there are a couple of things that on the Udemy platform, if you're actually looking on your computer with it, you will notice that there are some buttons at the top of the page. After you see the title, you'll see a little question mark. The question mark that's there is actually going to go to Udemy. So think of that as if you have a question about how to watch a video, or your video is not showing up, or it looks grainy. Caveat, if it looks grainy, make sure that you're watching it in HD. So the video viewer, when you click on it, you should see a little button in the corner to say watch in HD. So that will help your vision of what it looks like. The little I is information, right? Makes sense. And it's about the course itself. There's a little wheel, kind of looks like a little cog, I guess, a wheel. And that is going to be talking about your course settings themselves. So if there's a new lecture and you want to hear about it, right? So if I add something to the bonus section, you can mark the box that says new lecture emails, and it will give you that notification. It should already be checked to say new announcement emails and promotional emails. So those are already kind of checked. But if you uncheck any of those and you're like, hey, I didn't hear about that bonus, that's where you're going to find out about it. So go click on that. Over a few boxes there, you're going to see some stars. So what are those about? Well, in this program, in this Udemy platform, they allow you to rate the program itself. And one of the reasons that's helpful, of course, to me as an instructor, but also to the Udemy platform and to the people at large, is it lets them know, how we're doing. So do feel free to put in a review. You will also be able to not only just give stars, so that's one piece of it, but you can actually then go in and write a review. So you can talk about the things that you like. If there are things that you want me to change, please let me know that. I'm always happy to make changes. So if it makes sense and it fits into the program itself. So, or actually talk you through why it's not there. So again, I think that's it for this evening. If you have any questions that I haven't answered, feel free to grab, the Udemy discussion topic, or to shoot me a message, and I will go ahead and get any of those questions that come through to me out to everybody in little Q&A sheet. And I think I'm going to start sending those Q&A sheets, just as an FYI, into the bottom of the program on the bonus section. So everybody can find them in one central place. So if you send me questions tonight, or if in the future you're on one of these calls and you hear a lot of questions or see a lot of questions, not quote unquote being answered at the time, then just check the next day or so and you'll see them in the bonus area as a Q&A. And I'll just probably put the date of the Q&A so everybody knows what it is and they can look it up and get their answers. Thanks everybody for coming tonight. I really encourage you to just be open and dream big, because no matter what you do, you can't fail in this program if you follow those steps. That I will guarantee you. You cannot fail if you follow every one of these steps. You will have results. You will have a changed life in 13 weeks. Things will be different if you follow all of these steps and watch all the videos. So thank you very much for attending. To all of you who are new, thank you for your faith in me, and I hope that we can have many years of hearing about all of your great successes. Namaste.